David Des Roches. He's an associate professor at the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us here on TRT World. Now, Raisi has been clear about not continuing talks where they had left off, and the U.S. probably won't lift sanctions under these terms, not to mention the list of other options that they're going to resort to if talks do fail, which is including strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Not a great start, is it?
No, no, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to backtrack to your start. In your intro, you described the deal as a treaty. It wasn't a treaty. It was a political arrangement. It wasn't signed. And that's part of the problem here is that we're really going back to that. Raisi wants something that binds the government, and he has a broad list of conditions, which I think are impossible. So, there's clearly going to have to be some compromise if there's any progress here. And I think that the public statements of the Iranian government are just not going to start with anybody. And I think that some of the public statements of the Biden administration saying that they'll expand the deal to include Iranian covert operation in Europe, the undermining of the government in Iraq and Lebanon and Syria, ballistic missiles, those aren't going to be starters either. So it's kind of hard to see where there's room for agreement.
Right. What do you think the U.S. is aiming to do here in releasing a list of alternative options that they'll resort to if talks do indeed fail?
I haven't seen a list of alternative options. I think people are interpolating what they are. So when an American negotiator says, well, we're looking at Plan B, that could encompass everything from trying to reestablish the coalition that put the initial sanctions on Iran that led to Iran going to the JCPOA. So that included Russia and China, famously China declining to cutting off oil imports from Iran, which is at the moment, the bedrock of the Iranian economy. And then what, of course, people in the press focus on is our military options. But I think that those are way, way, way down the list. They're not Plan B. They're Plan ZZ.
Right.
So there's a whole range of options.
Mm-hmm.
I think, though, that the predilection of this government is to start with the diplomatic option. Basically, I think what the United States is trying to do here is first get an agreement. But if it can't, then get European partners to agree, okay, it's Iran that's being unreasonable here, and thus enlisting them in a new regime of sanctions, expanded sanctions.
Exactly. And Iran has made it clear that it will continue its operations in forming nuclear weapons if they don't get their way, given that Donald Trump had backed out from the agreement. How would this change the political dynamics in the region?
Well, it's going to be, the political dynamics are already pretty bad. I mean, the Arab countries have 2 points. The first point they make is the nuclear agreement. Basically, the money that Iran was putting into nuclear stuff didn't go into making life better for Iranians. It was just channeled into militias in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, and the development of new ballistic missiles, which actually, have been fired and attacked targets within Saudi Arabia. So they're concerned about the conventional capabilities of the Iranian forces, which the deal probably won't address. And then, countries such as Saudi Arabia have said, look, whatever Iran gets, if they get the ability to enhance uranium, we're going to insist on this as well. That's a huge, huge problem. And quite frankly, it's something that was unresolved in the Obama administration when the original deal was signed.
All right. David Des Roches, thank you so much for joining us here on the
Thank you.
NewsHour. It was a pleasure.